Hi, this is Paul Deslauriers, and you're watching loudguitars.com.
Mike Blackburn, loudguitars.com, here with Paul Deslauriers. We haven't talked with Paul for quite a while. He's been a very busy boy, lots of things going on. So, many projects to talk about, Paul. First of all, introduce us to that beautiful melody maker beside you.
Yeah, this is the old boy in the collection here. This is a 1960 melody maker that I picked up a few years back from a friend of mine who'd had it in his collection for about 25 years. And I think he bought it from the original owner. And he asked me. He said, "Well, he had a bunch of old. He used to work for the one of the record companies I was signed with, and he's got a bunch of old gear and stuff." He said, "Well," I said, "if ever you sell that melody maker, you call me first." And lo and behold, one day the call came in, and he said, "It's up for sale. It's up for grabs." So I picked it up, and needs a bit of love, We gotta give it a bit of love and stuff, but she's a great player, and man, it's the original wood, It's the same wood they were making 1960 and 1959 Les Pauls with. So she's the oldest one in the collection, And I mean, if you're like your vintage crazy cats out there, know that you go on eBay and you look for these knobs. If it's a Les Paul knob or whatever from that era, they're selling them for obscene prices. But she's a player. She's made to be played. That's what I think about all those old vintage guitars and stuff. It's a shame to see them go into some kind of collector's
under glass.
Yeah, under glass in a showcase or something like that. When they have friends over and they say, "Look what I got." Well, these instruments were made to be played, and the beauty of it, the real testament of a great instrument, is that 60 years beyond, they're still great instruments, and they play even more beautifully now than they used to. So. And these, you can still pick them up for a song, They're still affordable old guitars, and they sound great and resonate, and that's that great old wood, man. And the old world craftsmanship as well, put together by hand,
Super.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to make you pick her up, but tell us about the Flying V.
The V, that's the most recent acquisition in the collection. Picked it up as basically a backup to my Les Paul. Because I've got a bunch of, I got a junior, I got a special P90s, and I've also got a modern, recent melody maker from, I think, is 2011, which is a fabulous guitar, and especially for the price, just unbelievable, extremely resonant, and it's just a different guitar, but it's got just the one single coil pickup. So the other guitar with humbuckers that I have is this fella here. So when I couldn't see myself doing a whole 3-hour set, which I do sometimes with a band, if I break a string on the first song with my Les Paul and finishing the night with this guy, because it's a little bit heavy. So I picked up this Flying V this summertime as a backup for my Les Paul, another great guitar. It's nice, beautiful wine, red color, burgundy.
We love vintage stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the projects now. First one we're going to talk about is the project that you did with Anwar Khurshid, which, when was that released?
This was released right here. It's called Enter the Gate. Was released in June of this year, June 2013. Great project that I've really, something that's been really close to my heart. And I've known Anwar for about 10 years. We started, I actually studied sitar with him. He's a wonderful virtuoso, internationally renowned virtuoso sitar player, and I studied sitar with him for a couple of years in the early 2000s, and we became friends and started discussing music and stuff like that, because he knew I was a musician. I played blues guitar and rock and roll and all this, and we became friends, and we started visiting a lot, and he'd come over to the house and we'd work on music together. We had studied sitar with him. He'd show me some things, and then he'd ask me about guitars and things, and play me some things, because his musical culture is obviously Indian classical music, and he's really ensconced in that, and he grew up with that. That's like a huge part of his culture. But he wasn't really familiar as much with blues and things like that. But he'd heard enough to know that the idea of bending notes and all that kind of stuff was very similar to what he was doing, and that's where we realized that those worlds really meet. And we started working on music together, very informally, but always with the with the dream of actually doing something and recording music together. So over the years, he'd come and visit, and I'd visit him, and we'd work on some songs and melodies and things together. And finally, in the summer of 2012, we got together with my band, with my trio, with drummer Sam Harrison, bass player Greg Montmorency, got together in Bromont, Quebec here, and recorded an album of material. We've got about an hour's worth of stuff, where we wrote, how many numbers? I think out of 10 songs, we have 8 of them that are original. Yes, that's 8 of them that are 7 that are original, and 3 covers. And we do a cover of Norwegian Wood, which is kind of a tip of the hat to the first occasion that most Westerners got to get the sound of sitar.
Unpopular music.
Yeah, that, and Painted Black from the Stones and all that from that era. So that's when a lot of Westerners first heard it. We got a cover of Nobody's Fault But Mine by Blind Willie Johnson on there, which is a thing from 1928, and a classic piece from the Indian repertoire, Cavalli, Chaptalak Sabchini, which is like an 800-year-old folk song from that era, from the Indian classical side of things. And the rest are compositions that we put together. And it's basically an East meets West collaboration, where you hear a lot of those things where you'll hear certain types of artists get together. It's like it's more blues, it's a blues, and we're trying to adapt sitar or kind of another instrument, from another culture, or vice versa, But we really we endeavored to actually write and compose music together that respected each other's musical traditions and stuff, and we did it quite humbly, actually, and with very simple means. We recorded it in the basement of our dear friends Angel Forrest and Denis Coulombe. They had a little recording set up and stuff that we did, and we basically camped out at their house for a week and we recorded this music, and we're quite surprised at the reaction that we're getting. Very positive, and not only from listeners that are very into music and into instrumental things because we've got there's 3 pieces with 3 out of the 10 pieces have vocals on it, the rest are instrumental pieces. So we're quite shocked that even more laypersons or that people that are interested in music, but not necessarily that have great instrumental music collections and stuff like that, they've really enjoyed the record. And we played at the Montreal International Blues Festival this summer, premiering the album, and we won the festival favorite show from they named us the show's festival favorite from the organizer of this festival. So we were really quite blown away by the reaction it's had, and it's a beautiful thing because we get to I get to play for my audience, which is mostly the Western blues audiences, and on Anwar's side we get to play for the Indo-Pakistani community in Canada and around. So it's really it kind of, we're happy that it's hands reaching across the world, and I think without getting too philosophical about it, there's the beauty in that music is everywhere. Music is all over the world, and music reunites anyone, any culture. We're all part of the same fabric, and music proves that, because we can get together from 2 very different cultures and meet within the music and create something beautiful. So.
And it was beautiful. The crowd reaction in Tremblant was great, as you mentioned, and I mean the fact that you can move pretty much a hardcore blues crowd that much says a lot about the music and the spirit that went into creating this, and how well it crosses boundaries.
Well, we were quite shocked actually by it, because we, to boot that day, it had been raining, like torrential rains. If anybody knows what Quebec summers are like here in the eastern part of Canada, it gets really extremely humid. So it's beautiful to be outside and it's really warm, but then you can get a cloudburst where you get a torrential rain and it just rains for an hour. And it had done that literally an hour before the show, so I was like, there's going to be nobody's going to show up. It's going to be 10 of our friends and 4 people that are curious about what it is, and literally everybody in the village was there. The sky cleared up, and about halfway through the show, it had stopped raining before the show started, and the place just filled up, and the clouds broke open at one point during the show, and then the sun beamed down. So it's quite magical. So yeah, we're really happy and humbled by how it's been accepted and people are enjoying it. So it's a great thing. It's music about music, and that's for me. What makes me happy about it is that we really did it for music. It's for the love of music.
And so, if you had to pick one track on there that you're most proud of, your favorite track, which one would it be?
I don't know. I mean, I really, I love all of it. I think Enter the Gate itself, I mean, we named the album Enter the Gate after the title track. And I think if you give that one a listen, there's some fairly long things in there. But I think that one sort of basically sums it all up. I mean, if you can hear that one, you know what the rest of the record is like. And it's, there's a lot of my guitar playing, Son Morris playing and stuff. And it's the lift, it's the lift. And that's probably one of my personal favorites.
Which one do you think Anwar would pick for himself?
I wonder. Anwar, I don't know. But I would have to ask him. That'll be the next interview. But there's Midnight on Dorion, which it
was obviously written near where you live.
Right here in my house, yeah, right here. And we wrote that at midnight on Dorion. And that is actually also, there's an Indian rag that's called Bimpalasi. And we realized a lot of the similarities in like the blues scales and things like that, where in Indian rags and stuff like that went along similar types of scales and using the same notes and we adapted that. I mean, Anwar brings in all his vast knowledge of that music and says, look, this reminds me, this particular song is like this rag, in the same type of mode or with the same notes that are used. So we adapted a lot of that in that same spirit, saying, okay, well, we're going to write an original song that's based on my idea of what a certain kind of blues is, and he would delve into his own knowledge and repertoire of music and say, well, this is actually, we have a similarity in Indian classical music to this, which is a rag called Bimpalasi, So there was always that intent of marrying the two worlds and having something relevant for each other's audience as well that they could relate to, which I think is what makes it work, because when we do play for the community that knows Indian classical music better and stuff, they recognize these things in there as well and enjoy the show, which is, to me, it's always a great surprise to me when we perform for that audience, because I have people come up and go, wow, this is wonderful, and I'm like, here I am, the rock and roll blues guy, and I'm going, really, you really enjoyed what we it's quite interesting. So it's been quite an adventure.
Well, when I listen to the record, and people, you must get this, it's a fantastic work. Some of the longer atmospheric pieces, I see them as having a place in soundtrack for film and things like that. Have you guys considered using this music or approaching, I don't know, CBC, some of the Paco Indian networks, people like that, to see if they have any interest in it?
I think, strangely enough, it's been aired on CBC. Holger Peterson's played it on Saturday Night Blues. There's been it's actually gotten a lot of radio play in some of the more niche markets, where the blues radio and things like that have actually picked up on that. And we obviously hope that that sort of thing would happen. And I know there's a certain avenue for that. I mean, it reminds me of, as a child, when my parents took me to see the film Gandhi, and you still imagine the soundtrack in your head and the beautiful things that Ravi Shankar had orchestrated for all that. And I mean, you can certainly hear it playing on as an introduction to something, or film music or whatnot, because there are a lot of those aspects that are atmospheric. We euphemistically call it music for making love to. We wanted to call it something else.
So how come Anwar hasn't invited you to any of those gigs he seems to do with belly dancers?
What type of belly? You mean for the Cirque du Soleil and things like that? Yeah, he's had a few interesting gigs, as well as it's a guitar player. Funny thing, he's just one of the most wonderful, sweetest persons I've ever met in my life, and extremely unassuming, and not that knowledgeable about Western popular culture and whatnot. But he was actually. he was actually the sitar coach for Mike Myers in the Love Guru. Mike Myers,
Whoa.
you know, he called me up one day and said, "Oh, I got, you know, they paid me to do this and coach this guy, and I got paid really well." And so some guy named Mike Myers, apparently he's, you know, well known. But Anwar was actually on the soundtrack of The Life of Pi, the film The Life of Pi, which won the Oscar for, actually even won the Oscar for the best film score as well. So Anwar actually performs on that film as well. So
cool.
He's got quite an impressive resume, and whether he realizes it or not, you know, he's quite a humble man, and it's just it's a real joy to work with him, you know, truly. And he's introduced me to some wonderful things and wonderful people in my life. So it's one of those gifts that life and music brings to you, you know.
Let's move on to project number 2, which is your ensemble with Don Tyler Watson,
yes.
The soon-to-be betrothed Don Tyler
Yes,
Watson.
exactly. Yeah, Don's gonna be married next week. Yeah, this. Well, here's I got a copy of the new album right here, which is called Southland.
And when did this one hit the
This
streets?
hit the streets a month before the Enter the Gate album, so this would have been in May of 2013. So that's the new one out. That's the new opus that we've been touring for a while, and getting great results as well. Lots of great reviews, and doing real well. Don and I just did a gig, just did a couple of gigs this week, and just got back in Quebec City today, premiering that one. We were playing at the Quebec City Jazz Festival. And yeah, indeed, Don's getting married next week, so there's going to be a big mega jam at the wedding, I think, as well. But this record's been doing well. It's a follow-up to the first album that we did called On Duo, which is, of course, you know, more of an acoustic project with basically 2 voices and an acoustic guitar. But on the new album here, as you can tell, I've got my Les Paul on there.
Yes.
Which kind of belies the fact that I play a little bit of electric guitar on that record as well. And this guy usually makes an appearance on one song, 2 actually. So yeah, it's another great project. I mean, we're really fortunate in that we've taken that thing around the world. You know, we've been to Russia, we've been all over Europe, and to the Middle East and North America, and you know, I mean, we've been touring together probably for about 8 or 9 years. You know, we've got 3 albums together. We did a lot of touring, and it's nice because it's sort of a side project. It started as a side project, it really took off and developed a life of its own. So that's the newest album. We're really busy this year recording a lot of stuff. So that was 2 albums in 2 months released, you know, which is a lot of fun.
So have you taken hubby to be aside and say, listen, buddy, you're not getting in the way of this train. So just step aside and let us do our thing.
No, he's a great fella. He's a great guy, actually. And no, I mean, he knows. I mean, it's like I don't. Anybody who gets involved with a musician, you know, in a relationship, stuff like that, knows that it's a tough thing and it's an unusual thing. You know, you can't expect regularity. You can't expect, you know, weekends off and that kind of thing, right? It's a very particular lifestyle that we do have. So it always takes somebody very special that can sort of be part of that, and you know, and wants to be part of that, you know, because yeah, it's all fun and games and it's good, you know.
No, there's just a lot of globetrotting with this particular ensemble.
Yeah.
And that's not likely to change anytime soon.
I don't think so. And it's like anything. I mean, you know, people ask you, do you find it hard to travel and all this? It's part of what it is, you know. I don't think any musician that earns his living, you know, 100% from making music gets to stay in one place for very long, ever, you know. And I think wanderlust, you know, is a lot. The romantic aspect of being a musician, traveling and stuff, is what is a part of it that attracts us all. I mean, you get to see the world and make music doing it, you know, which is a wonderful thing. But there's the whole aspect of the reality of it's like, okay, it's great, you know, that hour and a half or 2 hours that you're on stage rocking and rolling, but the rest of the time is a lot of traveling and, you know, a lot of jet lag and all those things like that. But it's, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world, man.
Let's talk about project number 3 now, which is very much in progress. I mean, you're going to be kicking me out of here soon so you can continue working on it.
I might give you a sneak preview of it, too.
Tell us about it.
This it's the new Paul Deslauriers band album that we've been working on for the last few months. I'm actually in the final stages. We're going to be mixing in the next couple of weeks. And so I haven't put out an electric record with my band since 2006 was the last official Paul Deslauriers album. So we've got the new record coming out that we've been working on that we're really excited about. I'm really happy to be getting back and playing a whole lot of electric live and stuff, because we did a lot of acoustic work with Dawn over the years and stuff like that. And we're really excited about this record. It's a new trio album. It's heavy on the blues and the rock and roll, but old school like we really like it. And I'm quite proud of this record. It's got a lot of the elements that we've always wanted. I think it's one of the first times I'm going like, okay, this is really what I've always dreamed one of my records would be sounding like, tonally and stuff. And we've got the right ingredients and the right cast of characters to make it sound the way we wanted it to. And I think it's a real good representation of what the trio is live. When you come and see the Paul Deslauriers band, I think that for the first time we really captured, what that essence is. On record, which is a lot of fun. So it's good, and really excited to be getting back to playing a whole lot of electric guitar, because this basically was my first love. For years and years, I got kind of the thing with Dawn really took off, and I got recognized a lot internationally by playing acoustic guitar with Dawn. We really developed a very special, unique thing. But I mean, I love these guys here. Plugging them into my wizard stack and turning it up to broil. So,
have you got a name selected for the album as yet?
I'm still thinking about that. I'm still mulling that one over. But we've got all the tracks selected. It's 10 songs, about an hour's worth of music, and I'm still kind of scratching my head. But I know it's going to come at some point, or somebody's going to say something to me, and it's going to go boom. Because you can either choose a title of a song or whatever, or maybe like a snippet of a lyric or something in the song, whatever. But that little spark hasn't come yet, but it will soon. So that we're shooting for a master in the next month, and then basically all the promotion, marketing of the album, and media push is probably going to happen in the beginning of the new year, and getting ready for festival season 2014, getting up there and rocking for the good people.
Okay, and last, let's talk about something else that's been occupying a lot of your time. You've been back and forth to France quite a bit in the last, say, 3-4 months, and it's not only to sing with Dawn. Tell us about your other gig and how that came about.
Yeah, I actually got approached to, I did some producing again this year, which was nice. It was been a couple of years since I produced an album, since I think the last time I did produce a project that was not my own. It was for the Montreal Jazz Festival, and did a compilation of Quebec stars that sing the blues. And I got approached through my agent in France, who works with this French rock band called Involt. And they approached me. They were looking for a producer to produce their latest album. And met with them in November of 2012, when we just discussed a lot. And they, I heard some of the material that they were working on for the new thing, and realized that we had a lot of the same tastes in music, and a lot of the same kind of the same record collection. Jérôme Gauthier, the guitar player and main songwriter in the band, he and I became quick friends, and his brother Antoine is a singer, and we realized we had about half of the same bloody record collection, And so I said, yeah, this is right up my alley. I can do this. So they're an old school kind of rock, 70s kind of rock band, and it's great material, great riffs. And so I as I was going over there with Dawn a lot, 2 or 3 times a year, I met up with them, and then we struck up a deal to work together. And I started kind of working on that January of last year, went over in March, recorded half of the record in March, went back there in June, finished the album with them, and then did some work here in Montreal in August and mixed the album. And I just delivered it last week to those guys. I hand-delivered, mastered the album here in Montreal in the afternoon, got on the plane at night, and hand-delivered the album next day to those guys. So Involt, and I think the album's going to be called Black Is My Name, and the great French out of Paris rock and roll band. You check them out too.
When's that one coming out?
That'll be out as well, I think, in the new year, beginning of the new year. So.
Did you do any playing at all on the record?
I did a little bit of playing. My goal was to really let those guys shine as much as possible. I took great pleasure in doing that and allowing them to kind of really express themselves in that. I play a little bit here and there. I do a little bit of rhythm guitar, and I did some backup vocals on the thing, just to fill out a couple of things for fun. But that is really their record, and my mandate in that was to really show what a great band these guys are, and what a great bunch of musicians and songwriters, and I think we hit the mark. It's going to be a great record, and it's good old school rock and roll, with a touch of even I'd say Rage Against the Machine and the Cult. It reminds me of the Electric Cult and late '70s rock and roll and that kind of thing like that. So it's a good record. I'm very proud of the work we've done on that one as well. So.
Super. So tell us what your next upcoming gigs are.
Next upcoming gigs, I've got playing in Granby next week with Dawn, which I think is her last gig as a single next Thursday, and then after that, I'm basically mixing the next record. I've got a few gigs here and there, and basically concentrating a lot of my time on finishing the album. I've just basically been summer was a big touring season. Toured with the Paul Deslauriers band a lot, and did some shows with Dawn and with Anwar. And now the last couple of months have been a lot of studio work. And as soon as the new Paul Deslauriers band album comes out, we're going to be hitting the road a lot with that in the next year. So.
Well, excellent. We look forward to seeing all these projects. Well, we see two of them already with the other one, and seeing you out on the road with the Paul Deslauriers band.
Yeah.
And best of luck with all those endeavors, and rock on, brother.
Thanks a lot. Thanks to loudguitars.com.